process tonight will be, let me read you a little bit of our press release here. Article 533 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Bethlehem, entitled Parking Meters, specifically Section 53301. The establishment of meter rates states that the Bethlehem Parking Authority shall recommend changes in meter rates, after which the mayor or his designated representative shall hold a public hearing, which we're doing tonight. After review, the mayor directs whether such changes should be implemented or rejected. The Bethlehem Parking Authority Board made a recommendation to the mayor to raise on-street meter rates to $1.50 an hour. The Bethlehem Parking Authority has been designated as the representative to conduct the public hearing. The Bethlehem Parking Authority and Desmond will give a presentation on the meter rates and provide time for input. The mayor's responsibility is the meters, city council's responsibility of the fines, and the parking authority's responsibility for the rates for the garage. So I will turn this over to Kevin Livingston, the Executive Director of the Parking Authority, and then Tim Tracy from Desmond will be giving the presentation, and then we will have public comment.
Thank you everybody for coming. As the mayor said, the process is going to be Desmond will give a short presentation about the meter increase proposal. After that, we'll open it up for public input, and everyone will have a chance to speak. So I'd like to introduce Tim Tracy from Desmond.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks to everybody for coming out. As the mayor and Kevin indicated, tonight's presentation is to provide information and background that brought the authority's board's recommendation to increase the meter rates and some of the reasoning behind that. So as the mayor indicated, there's procedurally ordinances in the city of Bethlehem that are being followed, most of which is the background in that the board, Parking Authority Board, recommended to the mayor to consider raising the rates, and then it's the obligation of the mayor's office to hold a public meeting. He then designated the authority, and Desmond has been working with the authority for the past several years. So we work with the authority in the city to evaluate the appropriateness of a rate increase and how much a rate increase should be considered, and then also the timing of that increase. As a point of reference, I think it's important that the public and the folks here tonight, understand and appreciate really what the Parking Authority's obligation is under its charter. The Parking Authority was established really to operate the public parking for the city of Bethlehem. It administers, supervises, and enforces both the on-street and the off-street public parking facilities within the city limits. Is responsible to provide, reliable, continuous service. It's really an infrastructure, and we always try to sort of equate it. That's really no difference than other infrastructure that the city provides to its residents, businesses, and visitors. It can be, drawn as analogous to sewer and water, public roads, sidewalks, and parking really is an extension of the city's infrastructure. And with that, the authority, under its charter, has a responsibility to be fiduciary responsible, in that, like a sewer authority, it basically covers its operating, maintenance, and debt obligations through its user fees. And I think that's an important note as we go through the rest of the presentation, in that the only revenue source is really available, or the primary revenue source available to the parking authority, is its user fees. So meter rates and off-street contract parking provide the great majority of the parking's revenue source. Therefore, it's the means and mechanism to support its operating costs and to meet its debt service obligations. Again, the obligations of the authority is to operate a first-class parking system. It's to preserve the user fee revenues to safeguard its annual operating expenses, as well as its debt service. It also has a significant responsibility to maintain its infrastructure. In that, you know, the authority has, you know, countless surface parking lots as well as structured parking facilities that require, at a minimum, annual ongoing maintenance. Over the last several years, the authority has made significant strides to begin to address some deferred maintenance that has occurred over the last 20 years. But over the next 10 years, the capital repair of its parking facilities are budgeted or estimated at $6 million. So that in itself is a revenue obligation that the authority and the city and its users, really businesses and residents and visitors to Bethlehem are faced with. Absent of investing into its infrastructure, the ability for the authority and the city to provide public parking may be compromised. It is also a participant, the authority, in providing, again, additional added expanded infrastructure to meet the parking requirements, both in the north side and the south side of the downtown areas, to promote economic growth, support small businesses, support the arts and entertainment community that you've established and grown here in Bethlehem, as well as, you know, institutions, employees, and visitors. A little bit of the history. On-street meter rate increases over the last 16 years. In 2002, on-street meter rates were increased to 50 cents an hour, and in 2012 they were increased to $1 an hour. So it's been approximately 6 years since there's been any increase to the on-street meter rates in the city of Bethlehem. Off-street, which is not really the subject of tonight's public meeting, but is important as we evaluate on-street and off-street users and how to provide the tools for the authority to best manage and operate those two opportunities. In 2012, rates were decreased to 75 cents an hour, I guess as a way of promoting the use maybe of some of the off-street parking facilities. And in 2016, they were raised to $1 an hour. So they were kind of paired and assimilate on-street and off-street, which again, I think is an important thing to consider as we move forward, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit more. So again, rate structures, management, and operation. And when we evaluate and we assist our clients and authorities, I think we look at all of those three elements kind of hand in hand. Because rate structures really do provide a management tool to help regulate the use of parking and also encourage some facilities to be used versus other facilities. Typically, on-street curbside spaces tend to be the most desirable spaces. They are the ones that people will try and occupy on a first-come, first-served basis. They tend to be generally more convenient to the destination, so they're, again, they typically will be more desirable from the user's perspective. Because of the high demand, on-street spaces also experience a greater rate of violations, and which makes sense. If your demand at a specific segment of your parking capacity is higher used, you would expect with higher demand becomes the potential for more parking violations. Generally speaking, the industry looks at pricing as, again, as a management and operational tool, but also as a deterrent for long-term pricing. So we want those curbside, those most convenient, to provide the greatest opportunity for turnover. So they generally will, we try to evaluate those and provide the tools to manage and operate those to really promote higher turnover. Because they're the most convenient. We want long-term parkers or people that are going to be parked in a spot for a prolonged period of time to be off-street. It creates a safer environment. It creates less conflict, less friction on the streets if you've got all those spaces sort of parked off-site, off-street, I should say. Again, generally speaking, on-street rates are typically priced higher than off-street rates. Again, to help drive long-term parking into off-street lots and or garages. I think, again, that's an important premise, and it's a premise that really the industry has evaluated, embraced, and continues really to operate on a global basis under that premise. So what's happened in Bethlehem is that with the pricing that has occurred over the last several years, the pricing for on-street and the pricing for off-street is been leveled. So the incentive or the motivation or the opportunity to provide, I don't even like to use the word discounted or reduced rate parking off-street no longer exists or doesn't exist currently in the downtown. So as part of the